Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of Ascension Teachings, and today we're going to be covering a lot of my UFO and paranormal footage that I've captured over the last 10 years. It's not all of it, wouldn't even be 1% of what I've captured, but I've just grabbed some of the best bits here and there over a 10-year period and put it together, so let's get into it. This is the first sighting here that I was able to capture on camera, and a friend was with me during this as well. Now this is what ended up on the news with the next bit of footage that I'm about to show you as well. And the Australian Air Services couldn't say what it was. Multiple times they were saying that their traffic control tower was shut at the time. So these are definitely anomalous, and this is where it really started to pick up for me in later years. So going into the next bit of footage, you can actually see me point at this object and it reacts and shoots off. Now before going any further, I'd like to show you what Jason Gleaves has to say, who is an image analysis expert.
Hello, my name's Jason Gleaves from UFO Only. Where do I start regarding Peter Maxwell Slattery and his sightings and certainly unusual experiences? I first came across Peter through my research in ufology via Mary Rodwell and their connection together through Peter's hypnotic regression session. During Peter's regression, something very strange and unusual happened. When he was in a deep relaxed state, another energy of heightened intelligence and consciousness became part of the session. This inevitably led me to his amazing photographs of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, of strange aerial anomalies, which he captured over the skies of Australia and worldwide. I've personally had the pleasure to analyse quite a few of Peter's fascinating footage of images of UFOs and anomalies with remarkable results. I also class Peter and his unique experiences within the top 1% of UFO experiences worldwide. My opinion, of course, due to my research and findings.
Now going on from here, I would like to show you what John Vivanco has to say.
My name is John Vivanco, and I've been remote viewing for, it's been about 20 years now, maybe a little more. I started out remote viewing, working in a think tank. We're working with alphabet agencies, government, as well as corporations. And then I shifted towards remote viewing with a team on strange paranormal stuff. Pete Slattery, one of the people, it's actually the first project that we've ever done where we've remote viewed just a singular person and their experiences to try to understand why. So Pete has loads of odd experiences. He's like one of the new contactees in a sense. And we wanted to understand why Pete has been having these experiences. You would assume there's a plan for it. We also wanted to look at a couple of different experiences that he's had so we can understand what those things are that are interacting with him. We found, on the side of Pete having these experiences, why he's having them, it's a really, really interesting and strange story. And I think it takes a little bit longer than a minute or two. But the other stuff that we found when we look at the things that have been interacting with him, for instance, the Shiji photo, that photograph is a real being, from what we've seen, that is interacting with him, that showed up in his room and is actually a part of him, a being that is separate but also a part of him. The remote viewers were describing the outline of the shape. This being was levitating, floating around, moving around the room. Really fascinating stuff. So we know that what's happening to Pete is very real and very impactful events. Why this is happening and why it happens repeatedly and why he constantly is able to film these things in the sky and have these experiences in front of him. Well, let's just say that his genetics are just a little bit different than most people out there.
Moving on now, this is where it starts to build up and build up and build up. So here is a photo that I took in 2011 of an object that was at very close range. It looks very detailed indeed. I call it the bolt sometimes because it's sort of got that aspect to it as well. But this was just a brilliant illuminated object. And this has also been analysed by Jason Gleaves. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing here has been. Going on now, this is what I call the orb with the face, the Elohim. So it's got a slight resemblance of what the Elohim looks like. And this is a photo that I took in my place that I was living in at the time, in front of the heater. Now moving on from that, here is a photo of a blue orb that I took after I saw it come through a portal in my lounge room. So basically I was sitting down on a couch, this white light opened up and then this object came through and it basically followed the circumference of my apartment until it actually came back into the lounge room. That's where you can see I took the photo of it there, as just before it went back out. And when it basically went back out where the portal appeared, but there was not a portal appearing and it went back through it. It basically went through the wall. So that was quite an amazing experience indeed. And here's a photo I took of being in a craft on my front lawn that's in apparition form. Now, as things built up, you know, like I was saying, there's that thought transfer component. And so around this time, I'd had contact with Shiji, the Elohim, and things started to grow. So this night, I had a telepathic communication just to go outside, looked up, and then this is what I captured. And as you can see, I ran down to my neighbour's place and got her out to see this as well and witness it.
Prue, come and have a look. Come and have a look. There it is. Cool. Moving about.
And moving on now, you can see a triangular craft I took a photo of above my place. And also out the front of my place in another direction, here's a cigar craft that I was able to take a photo of as well. This footage here I actually took when I had telepathic communication to go out to Bona with a friend, and this is what we captured. Now, as you can see, this orb comes in big and bright, and then it dulls down, gets very tiny, and it starts speeding up and shooting away. Going on from there, this is a craft that I filmed over Paw Punker, which is at the bottom of Mount Buffalo. I had numerous people with me for this one. Moving on, we're going to Melbourne now, when I moved there, and this is an object that I filmed. I think there was 3 or 4 people present when I filmed this one.
Start the zoom. It's still there. There it is.
And here's a craft here that I filmed. Walking out, there was an object, I'd probably say in the west, and it was coming towards my direction, and this is what I was able to capture. So this is the first time I was using a 4K camera that's got very clear quality. So I've got it in 4K at about 120, 90 times zoom. So hard to track this one. So we've had it here for a couple of minutes, sort of hovering around the same area. Now this is very interesting footage here. This was followed by a Men in Black experience. So basically I was out in the back on a lawn chair looking up. I saw this object fly over me that it was like a kite, but it wasn't. And it wasn't the object that you're about to see here. So basically it looked like a door with 2 black squares in it. So it was like the shape of a door of a house with 2 black squares. The front sort of 2 corners were cut off diagonally. And I can't tell if this was white or if it was structured from light or it was reflective, but the circumference of it and the middle panel, it was all like a light or something like that with 2 black squares. I went sort of around these power lines and shot off. And when I looked up above where I was sitting at the time after that experience, straight away I saw this object that you see here. Got it. God, you are hard to get, you. Amazing. Look at that. It's basically going by the side of the sun. And it was funny because I just had something that looked like a friggin' kite fly by the house and go in that direction. This ended up going around the world on the news. It was on Coast to Coast. It was on Yahoo News as well here in Australia, I think around worldwide. I wasn't even aware. It happens with a lot of experiences that I have. I'll post it and then it's on the news, but nobody even talks to me to get my opinion or take on it. They sort of do their own write-up on it. So this was very interesting experience, and this was actually the line beings I found out later. But later that day I went for a walk to test out some walkie-talkies for skywatchers and that I hold, and when I got down to a park, maybe a kilometre or less away, there was a black car that was like a Chrysler mixed with something else. There was no markings on it whatsoever. I couldn't even tell what type of car this was. And there was people in there saying that I was a UFO guide and to shut up. And then they started up the car, and by that time I was able to get past to the front of the car and jump into a football oval, and they sped off. And so I found that was really interesting, especially straight after this sighting. Now what you're about to see in this footage here is known as an IBANI, which means unidentified aerial biological entity. And I believe that there was many of them because I believe that each ball here is an entity. It's not a balloon. They get there's a lot of criticism around this and sort of a lot of division, but this is definitely anomalous. Each ball would have been the size of a living room, and there was many of them. And equaling, when you put all them together, it was bigger than a 747. So this is amazing footage that I captured quite a long time ago. Now basically this is some footage that I captured a few years ago of an object coming sort of out of between the door and window area, somewhere around there, and it comes out and you can actually see the cat recognise it, which is down the bottom on the table on the right hand side, up a little bit. You can see the cat there sort of licking itself, and this object comes out, the cat sees it and actually follows it with its head until out of view. Now here's another craft that I filmed. I basically got the communication to walk out, look up, and this is what was in the sky. Now the next bit of footage is actually of a circle that has been analysed with cadmium in it that's anomalous in terms of the other controlled samples. It's definitely different from the other controlled samples. So the effect of this is that there's a lot of cadmium. I've seen other trace cases where cadmium has been involved. It's not many of them, but it has been part of what's been in the soil after a landing case as well. So what basically happened was I had an experience with Pancake the night before on the front lawn, and the next day I got up, sort of forgot about it, went to go and do the lawns, and there was a circle exactly where we met, and this was an effect that he was able to leave for evidence, what he told me later on. What's anomalous about this too is that the grass died in the area, and this was sort of just before summer, but when it got to summer, all the grass died in the front lawn, but the only place that there was grass was in the circle as well. So that's some food for thought. Now here's a quick snippet of a bell-shaped object that I filmed over my place quite some time ago as well. You can see it forming and shape-shifting. These crafts can really take on a life of their own because they are biological in nature with the symbiotic relationship to the pilot, and they can shape shift, manipulate, do whatever they want with it. So this is an example of that here. And here's a UFO fleet that I filmed. Basically, I got home from work this day and walked out the back after the thought transfer to go outside, and this is, I think all up there was about 30 crafts. It was very hard to film, but this is what I was able to capture on camera at the time.
Zoom in anymore, it's going to blur like it did before, but
So everyone, we'll wrap it up there before we go into part 2 in the next episode. But before we end it, I want to go into a quick exercise about connecting with your higher self. So what I want you to do is just close your eyes. And what I want you to do is visualize that you're breathing in light, whatever colored light works for you. And when you breathe out, just release any problems, worries, frustrations. Let it out through the breath of the mouth. And again, breathe in that beautiful, loving, blissful energy. And again, breathe out anything not in line with the highest good, any past wrong conclusions, traumas, judgments, let it go. And again, breathe in that beautiful, loving energy. And one more time, breathe out anything not in line with the highest good. So I'm just going to ask that our guides and our higher self step forth. We ask that any cords, attachments, implants are dissolved. Now what I want you to do is engulf yourself in a bright, beautiful light. And just clear all the molecular structure and just feel this going through all the atoms and molecules in the body, powering everything up and sending it love. And what I want you to do now is visualize that there is an orb above you, which is your highest soul component, the Elohim self. And what I want you to do is, with each breath that you breathe in, I want you to visualize that you're slowly moving out of the physical body with each breath, going up a little bit each time. And just see that you're slowly looking down on the body. And each breath, just keep going, and you're going up a little bit more each breath. And eventually I want you to move into that orb of light, which is your oversoul, your cell of the overall collective. And what I want you to do from here is have a quick conversation with it about anything that you're trying to work out in your life, direction, purpose, how to be of service, how to attract abundance. This is sort of a short exercise that can help you tap in and get your own answers and pass the guides and go into your own God self, which is a cell of the overall collective of the high consciousness that encompasses all consciousness. And when you're ready, just move your fingers, your toes and your body. Just come back to the body. So again, everyone, thank you for watching this episode, and I'll see you next time.